Am I talking too much at this stage?
No, not at all, Nick. Not at all, mate.
Are we meant to have been on like dessert by now? Because I can talk. Right?
Hi, I'm chef, restaurant owner and music fan Paul Ainsworth, and this is Knives, Forks and Tunes, the podcast where we ask the all-important questions, dream dinner party menu, playlists, and of course, who's invited. Every episode's cooking tips and party playlists are available in the show description. My guest this week is comedian, actor and rock musician Nick Helm. Following the success of his Edinburgh Fringe show, he made his acting debut as Andy in the brilliant BBC sitcom Uncle before hosting his own music and comedy show, Nick Helm's Heavy Entertainment. He's also released 3 solo albums, including the perfectly titled Nick Helm is Fucking Amazing. But of course, I'm a massive fan of his food show, Eat Your Heart Out with Nick Helm. Nick, welcome to Knives, Forks and Tunes.
Hello, how you doing, Paul?
I'm very well. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really excited to be here.
Fantastic. Good. Now, we're going to ease into this kind of dinner party and like what you want to eat and what you want to drink and music, but we're going to start off with some little quick fire questions.
Sure.
You up for that?
Yeah, I'm up for anything.
Amazing. Do you throw dinner parties?
When we've been allowed to in the past, yes.
Good answer.
I do. I haven't really haven't had a dinner party in about a year and a half.
Yeah.
I moved house into a very tiny flat that I own, but before I rented a really nice flat, and I had dinner parties all the time. Oh God. Short answer, yeah, I do. I have dinner parties.
So you're a fan of the dinner party then?
Yeah, I love
you like your
dinner
dinner party. Yeah,
I really like dinner parties. I like cooking.
Yeah, because believe it or not, I've had some guests that aren't actually a fan of a dinner party. They just find the whole thing a bit awkward and can't stand the mess.
I think I can understand that. Do you know what though? The last few kitchens I've had have been open plan kitchens.
Yeah.
Sort of going to like either like a living area or the dining area, and that really helps because I do get overwhelmed by people.
Yeah.
I think I've had a few dinner parties where there's been about 8 people around a table, but generally if it's like a birthday party, I'll have 30 people over and I'll do kind of like a spread, and then people arrive for 3 o'clock to eat, but I'll have gone to the supermarket at 2:30 just before they got there. So they'll all be eating at 9 o'clock anyway, and I'll just be there in plain sight cooking, and people will think, oh, there's Nick, but I don't talk to anyone. So you're just hiding in plain sight, because I find I find social situations awkward and overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the way you do it is you invite enough people, they're self-sufficient, they can talk to each other, they're all getting hammered, and then you're just cooking there, and everyone thinks that they've seen you all day.
Yeah.
But you've just been hiding just in plain sight cooking for them.
I'm exactly the same. I, as a chef, much prefer more people, massive big spread on the table where everyone's more feasting.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole sort of 10 people starter, main course, dessert thing,
Yeah.
I find it difficult.
That's what I like. It ends up being a bit like family Christmas dinner then.
Yeah.
But I like feasts, where you just cook loads of food and everyone can just sort of dig in and help themselves. Do you get the thing when you're cooking that you cook all this food
and you're not hungry?
And you're hungry.
Yeah, all the time.
So why is that?
For me personally, I'm roasting hot.
Yeah.
It's normally at Christmas.
Yeah.
That's when I kind of. My wife does pretty much all the cooking throughout the year, and then when we have her side of the family's huge, so I really enjoy that. I'll just like you say, kind of let everybody chat and socialise, and I kind of quite like getting lost in what I do and just cooking and providing a feast for everyone. But I don't know. I think most of the time for me is that I'm hot and I do nibble as I go.
Yeah, it's tasting stuff as you can.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that you need to eat as much. Not you personally. I don't think you need to eat as much as it's because you sit down and you eat everything in one concentrated 10-minute allotment of time. Right? Yeah. Whereas if you pick at stuff, it hits your stomach. And then you're like, oh, I only had a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like
it's true.
Your brain sort of goes, no, you've eaten now, you're full.
Yeah.
If you only ate a little bit and then you waited half an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
I have cooked Christmas dinner quite a lot in the past, and every time I've done that, I'm never hungry for it.
Yeah.
And I'm never hungry when I cook dinner for people. And they always say, "You're not eating, Nick." And I said, "Yeah, I know what I've been doing with my hands."
Nice. So my next question was, which by the sounds of it, you really like to do, and that's, so you love cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I'm a comedian, and I can never eat before I go on stage, and I find comedy really stressful. Everything's stressful until the moment you're on stage and you're in front of a microphone, and at that point, you know whether the gig's going to be good or bad.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, and if it's good, it's great, and if it's bad, it's like you can deal with it. But it's not knowing all day. Yeah. Leading up to that thing, I get so stressed and nervous. On tour, it's a little bit better because they're there to see you. But when you're just, part of like a gig, then it's kind of like, it's difficult. So what I would used to do is when I get back from a gig at like midnight, I would cook, and then it would absolutely relax me. And yeah, I love it. I love cooking.
Like everyone says, like people say about my job, the hours, or like, a fisherman, how dangerous it is and that. But like, I can't even begin to imagine like the anxiety or the fit, like a comedian. I mean, like you've got singers and stuff going on stage or like groups and that, but it is pretty cutthroat. And it, like you say, I mean, a bad gig, there can't be anything worse, can there, than if it's just not going to plan?
In a way, I think it's worse for the audience, because I think that they sometimes get embarrassed on your behalf.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, that is part of the job.
Yeah.
In order to get new material, you've got to go up and try out material.
Yeah.
So, like, until you've finished working on the jokes and the routines and stuff, a lot of it is failure. But it must be the same with cooking.
I was just thinking the same thing, because when I first did Great British Menu, you can try it out. Everyone you're trying it out on is a fan of yours, and it must be like everyone's just laughing at you. But then the real test is when you actually go and do it in front of people or cook for people you don't know.
Yeah,
and that's when the real test comes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's exactly it. But also, you're free to fail in your kitchen.
Yeah. You're
trying different combinations of stuff and flavours, and you're kind of like going, well, does that work? And it doesn't. And you go, okay. And you learn. And it's a learning experience, and you don't find that humiliating. You just go like, I tried something, that didn't work. I'll try something else. I'll tweak that. I'll do that. And that's what stand-up is.
Yeah.
But it's public.
Yeah.
So and you have to do it publicly because you have to know what works. But then as you get on a bit, I've been doing it for like 15 years. So with COVID, we haven't been able to like test stuff. So it's been literally, we've booked you for this TV show. There you go. You're in front of the cameras and you're doing new material for like 15 minutes that you haven't tried anywhere. And the stuff I've done recently has sort of worked. And so you can rely on your instincts eventually. But that's kind of that's the same as like learning what combinations of things go together.
Yeah.
I do suffer from anxiety when it comes to sort of doing stand-up and performance. Sometimes I hate that aspect of it. And, I always think, if I could just do TV, if I could just act, if I could just do this. I love making albums because you're just in a studio and you're recording stuff, and then when you think it's perfect, you can release it, and it doesn't matter when everyone else thinks. And you think, if I could just walk away from stand-up, and then you don't do it for a bit, and you want to go back again. And I think a lot of the anxiety helps me be better.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if it means that you care.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you don't care, you go on stage, and you could be absolutely smashing it. But if you don't feel anything when you're doing it, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly the same what we do, yeah. It's because you care, exactly as you say, it's because you care. Nick, if you owned a restaurant, what would you call it?
Well, me and my friend Rebecca. Rebecca's my best friend from primary school, so we've known each other for about 34 years. Maybe she's a cook, and we were going to own. We were going to run a fast food chop shop called Chop Chop Chop. We just ordered chops in a hurry, and. And then you'd order like whatever chops you wanted. You could have like a beef chop, a pork chop, a cauliflower chop. Fuck it. And then you'd order like sides, and you'd have like there's mash, and then you'd have like a tap at your table that does the gravy.
Yeah. Do you know what I love about it? You're right, because normally you might go chop, chop, chop.
Yeah.
By Nick Helm or Nick and Rebecca.
Yeah.
But chop, chop, chop. Chops in a hurry.
Yeah, it's good.
That's the best.
I think it's got, but we haven't really gotten down to the nuts and bolts of how we do it or what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're always sort of talking about like running. But it's a different restaurant every time we talk about it. But
yeah.
The one that lasted the longest was chop, 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 chop.
I love it.
Yeah.
Right. The dinner party.
Yeah.
Alive or dead, fictional or real, and it's totally up to you.
Oh, it's fictional as well.
Yeah, who would your fantasy dinner party be?
I just want to say that this podcast is very difficult because if it was just food, that would be hard enough.
Yeah,
and then it's also music, which is impossible.
Yeah,
and then it's guests, and it's not just like who are you a fan of, which is a more basic question, and it's not just like what's your favourite food? And it's not what's your favourite music. It's like if you were orchestrating a dinner party, you've got to think who'd get on with each other. You've got to think, what's enough for everyone to sort of share and eat. And then you've got to think, it's not about my favourite music. It's not about like putting Motorhead in the background while people are eating. It's kind of like coming up with something that's sort of like, it's good, but also ignorable. So that you can chat over. Do you know what I mean? It's complicated. Every aspect of this podcast is complicated. So maybe when you do the next series, you might want to rethink it. I've literally been away at a wedding all weekend, and I spent the whole wedding just like going, oh, Kurt Russell? No. No. He wouldn't get on with Marie Antoinette, would he? And so it's been... Yeah,
so you haven't been much company
you've ruined
because of this podcast. We've ruined your weekend.
It's been a nightmare. Yeah.
Go on then, first guest.
I can't remember who I've said now. I've got a big list. I had my long list was like 90 people. Oh yeah, Paul Verhoeven. That's my first guest.
Right. Why?
So Paul Verhoeven directed RoboCop, Basic Instinct, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, Showgirls. He's like
amazing films.
Some of them are amazing for different reasons.
RoboCop's one that resonates with me.
RoboCop's incredible. It's just really works on almost every level, and it's a comedy, it's satire, it's action, it's horrific. It's really it's so. When we were talking just before we started, it's a
bit dark.
I had nightmares about RoboCop.
Me too.
Even just when he takes his helmet off and you see his face for the first time, it's all horrific. And a lot of his films are like that, where he mixes kind of a lot of things. He's Dutch, and he grew up during the Second World War, where his neighbourhoods were being bombed, and they'd wake up every morning and they'd just find buildings and human remains just all over the street.
Yeah,
I don't know if it desensitized him, but it gave him kind of like this outlook. So when he went over to America, he kind of made films that took the piss out of America and their sensibilities, and like everything was very violent in America and on American TV. So he just sort of like upped that, and he made things super violent. And there's like this scene in RoboCop where this guy, I guess at the time he would have been like a yuppie, but it's futuristic, but he's kind of like this yuppie guy. And he gets machine gunned in a boardroom office, which is meant to be funny, but he gets machine gunned for like 45 seconds. It goes on for ages.
Is that by Ed 209?
By Ed 209,
yeah.
And it's and that is such a like when you're little and you see it, and you're not meant to, but like we did. But when you're little and you see it, it's like it's horrific. But weirdly, whenever they showed it on ITV, they cut that bit down. so that he got shot for like, I don't know, 3 seconds or 10 seconds or something like that, which was worse because when you see a man just getting machine gunned it's like a Family Guy sketch. He's just like he's getting shot for such a long time that it ends up just being funny, you know. and that was kind of like this really dark sense of humour that Paul Verhoeven has. And if you had him at a dinner party, he'd be amazing. And when you were cooking, he would keep all the other guests entertained, you know.
Who's next?
The next person was Rick Baker. Rick Baker is, I mean, you're looking at me like, you twat.
No. Can I tell you what I was looking at you? Because you are, just for the listeners, you are the first person to come on and kind of do your guest list like live. Like you're literally got like a list of people that you're still choosing as we're going through this podcast. Yeah, I love that.
Well, you know, I went to a wedding, and you know, one thing I learned at that wedding is table seating is important. Yeah, they put your name on a little piece of paper, on a little cardboard triangle, you know, for a reason.
Yeah.
So
you can move.
Yeah. So Rick Baker, I tried to pick someone that did something different from everyone else, so they'd all have stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Rick Baker is a makeup effects artist who did special effects for American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
He did Michael Jackson's Thriller. He did loads of other stuff. He's really obsessed with apes. So he did the 1976 King Kong movie, which was sort of like his first attempt at it. And then years later, Tim Burton got him back to do Planet of the Apes. And the only good thing about that was the makeup. And the makeup was incredible. And I think one of the last things he did was Wolfman. And while he was making Wolf, and again, he's obsessed with werewolves, and so he started with American Werewolf in London, then he went on and did Wolf. I mean, you're laughing like you think this is bullshit, but it's not bullshit. Some people care about this stuff, all right? Fuck you, PR.
For everyone out there, that's Nick is talking to Jess Corrigan.
Right? So he did Wolfman, and the thing that made him retire was the fact that largely they am I talking too much at this time?
No, not at all, Nick. Not at all, mate.
Are we meant to have been on like dessert by now? Because I can talk. Right?
Oh dear, I love it.
So they replaced a lot of his work on the Wolfman with CGI, and he was just like, "Oh, you know what? It's over." But I follow him on Instagram, and he's really he's got daughters, and he does like all of their Halloween makeup. You just think if your dad was Rick Baker and he was doing your makeup for Halloween, you could really fuck some people up. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's just incredible.
Who's next?
I've got less to say about some people. Brian Johnson from AC/DC.
I mean, great shout there.
When Brian Johnson took over from AC/DC, he had like this impossible task where Bon Scott had died, and they were like, with the family's blessing, they were like, you've got to move on and keep going. They were like, okay, we'll have him as the front man. And he came in, and Back in Black, I think, I don't know if it's been like replaced or anything, but like at the time, I think it was only Thriller that had sold more copies than Back in Black.
Yeah.
As a debut album, you know. And there's a lot of people that are on the fence about whether, or they're like, well, we prefer Bon Scott to Brian Johnson. You go, well, yeah, sure. But they didn't replace, they didn't fire Bon Scott. And you wouldn't have AC/DC if it wasn't for Brian Johnson. He's also got this really great TV series called Cars That Rock. And I don't drive, and I'm not interested in cars, and I watched every episode.
I was about to go on to that, but I won't bother.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, that's why I love him. Yeah, I did.
He's great. He's so down to earth. It's brilliant.
And he's a collection of old, proper old, like 1912 Bentleys, and that racetrack that banks up the side.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he did a thing that's, when I was young, my dad told me that I'd never see the inside of a Rolls Royce unless I was getting buried. Well, look at me now, Dad, I got 10 of them. And it's like, oh, it's sweet. He's just really enthusiastic, and he's sort of, even though AC/DC are like one of the biggest bands on the entire planet, he still seems really grounded and down to earth.
Yeah, that's a brilliant impression.
Thank you. That's how he talks.
So after Brian Johnson?
I've got Tina Turner. So I wanted to have like another musician.
Fantastic.
So Tina Turner, I went to see in 1996 with my mum and my sister on her Wildest Dreams tour. She's one of the best. She's simply really good, isn't she?
So we've got Tina Turner.
Tina
I know you've got another one.
Should we have Jason Statham?
Yes, please.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
So we've got Jason Statham. He's just really good, isn't he?
Yeah.
I've got nothing more to say about him. He's just turned up.
Yeah.
I had Chris Farley. Wanted to have a comedian. It was going to be either Steve Martin, Chris Farley, Eddie Murphy or Buster Keaton. But I picked Chris Farley because he's dead. And he made one really good film. And then he made a bunch of other films that weren't as good. But the one really good film, Tommy Boy, that he made, I love that film more than most other people's best films. He just seemed like he would be a lovely guy. And also he's got a huge appetite.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be any leftovers. So you just go, this is great. You know, he can hoover up at the end and it's fine.
And it's always good to have someone like that who's full of energy.
Yeah.
You know.
You wouldn't sit him next to Paul Verhoeven.
No.
Either they wouldn't get on or they'd dominate.
Yeah.
So you keep them separate ends, you know. Maybe sit next to Tina Turner, between Tina Turner and Jason Statham. Because Jason Statham's kind of can be a bit monosyllabic. Yeah. You know? But also, he was a diver at the Commonwealth Games. So he's kind of like got lots of different aspects. You know, you feel like Jason Statham acting was at the very bottom of his list of things he could do. Do you know what I mean? He's incredible, but he could be doing something else. And then my last guest was...
this is a good one.
I mean, do you know who it is? It was Mary Shelley.
If it's the one that you picked out of the 90 you brought, then yeah.
Mary Shelley, she's really dead.
Yeah.
But my reasoning was last time she was at a party, she invented Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So... Imagine what she'd do with...
Do at your party.
Yeah, imagine what she'd do at my party. But there's quite a lot of horror people in there. Or there was. It's just a very long list. I mean, Sean Bean didn't get invited. William Shatner, Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage?
He'd be good, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage is just... Yeah. Oh, who's that at the door? Nicolas Cage? Yeah, he weren't invited, mate. It doesn't matter. You're just barging in. Oh, well, don't sit next to... All right, sit next to Tina. There you go. Abraham Lincoln? No way, mate.
Right, Nick, guests have arrived. They're all sat down. You've just left them to it because you can't be asked to speak to them.
Don't want to.
You don't want to speak to them.
Instantly overwhelmed.
Yeah. What starter would you cook for these eclectic bunch of people?
So, I went to a restaurant in Clapham called The Dairy.
Amazing restaurant.
And they do... Have you ever had that pea starter?
No.
It's like this pea medley, right? Where they have like this pea mousse and peas, actual peas. This pea and mint sort of jelly.
Yeah.
Torn up mint leaves. It's like they've got like ground up pork scratching salt. And it was like ice cold. And it came out in this little dish. And it was just like this absolutely just, if you like peas, my God, this is the dish for you. If you don't order it, I would recommend because, you know...
if you don't like peas.
It's pea-centric, yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I think it was a seasonal dish, so they did... But I just remember, I was halfway through eating it. Me and my girlfriend ordered it, and we were halfway through eating it, and then as we were eating it, we were just like, can we just order another one of these, please? Because it was incredible. And I've never done that before, or since, where you're like halfway through eating something and you just think, there's not enough of this, we're going to have to order another one of this.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, that's happened to me a couple of times, like literally only a couple of times where you order it again.
Yeah.
And I've got all of the ingredients that you said that were in there, and I can really see why that is a beautiful dish, especially when peas are in season.
Yeah.
And then with the pork scratching as well, like peas and bacon work so well together.
And I think what was good about it was that there were different sort of like disciplines and techniques that they used in order to create all of the different things, but really simple in terms of ingredients.
Yeah.
It was mainly peas.
And I love peas.
It was really good.
I love peas.
Or there's another starter where I went to this restaurant in Glasgow called Cafe Gandolfi. I filmed there for Eat Your Heart Out, and they just did like small dishes. And I ordered this thing, which was like this white onion puree.
Yeah.
It came with, and it was another it was like an onion medley, right? Where it was white onion, which was this sort of mousse puree type thing.
Yeah.
That came with feta cheese, cold charred spring onions. And there was kind of like a bunch of different things. And I ate this thing, and I'm not a massive fan of feta cheese, but the onion was so sweet that when you put it with the feta cheese, I felt like my brain was exploding. It was like one of the most... and it had black onion powder that was sort of like sprinkled over it. And it was just like this combination of all these different techniques that they used to make this onion stuff. And I just ate it. It was one of the... And the feta cheese was just so great. It complemented it really great. And it was amazing. So I worked out how to make it, and I made it for Christmas dinner the last time I saw my family. And it's just this really good dish.
Nick, again, I would love a starter like that. I love things like you said, the charred spring onions, like white onions. Probably onion is my favourite thing to cook with,
right?
In just anything, and I love it. But just making onion the main part of the dish. I love feta. At home I'll have feta on pretty much anything. I love feta. So nice starters there, mate. And
can I ask you a tip?
Yeah, of course you can.
So when I did the onions, the spring onions, I charred them and then I put them into iced water.
Yeah.
But they were really sort of like they'd lost all of their structure to them, and they were quite greasy.
Yeah.
So how would you do that?
So is there a reason why you charred them, then put them into ice water?
Because I'm guessing at it.
Right, okay. So I wouldn't chill them down. If the white onion mousse is kind of served chilled,
I
imagine, then I love like temperature contrasting cooking. So I would just leave those, either using something like baby leeks or spring onions.
Sure.
Or you got the little gretlock onions, which look a lot like a spring onion, but they got just a bigger bulb on the end. And just simply char them. So you kind of got that sort of temperature contrast. So you kind of got like room temperature feta, nice kind of hot charred spring onions, and then that lovely chilled white onion mousse. And to stop them being greasy, just don't put if you're going to do them in a pan, or even better if you did do them on the barbecue on a char grill, just cut them down the middle, season them, and just ever so lightly brush them with a little bit of olive oil.
Right, yeah.
So you're kind of brushing the veg, not putting the oil in the pan.
Great. That would be my mistake, yeah.
Yeah?
Great.
Nick, what would you have your guests drinking? I'm laughing because he's staring at me in the face. What would you have your guests drinking at this fantasy dinner party?
Well, there's some really sophisticated people there.
Yeah,
It's a good mix. And I think that those two starters, whichever one I pick, it'll probably be the onion one because I've done it before. It's got very subtle flavours to it.
Yeah.
So to serve with that would be Pepsi Max Cherry.
Yeah.
I thought about maybe Pepsi Max Raspberry or Ginger, but...
Hang on.
Really?
Did Pepsi Max do a ginger?
Yeah. But have you had Pepsi Max Cherry?
No, because I was going to come on to I only know Cherry Coke, but...
If you go to Coca-Cola, if we can go off on a tangent on this show... Coca-Cola.
Nick, I'm not even going to try and stop you.
Okay. So the Cherry Coke, right, was my favourite drink growing up. When I drink it now, it's so sweet.
Yeah.
And also, I used to hate Diet Coke and like full fat Coke, great. But I've drank so much Diet Coke recently that when you go back to full fat Coke, it's so sweet. There's something that's really weird when Diet Coke do flavours. So they put like lime in, or they put mango in, or they put cherry in. And it's not Diet Cherry Coke, it's Diet Coke with cherry. And the flavour that they have is such sort of like a synthesised cherry flavour. It's kind of like an impression of what you think cherry tastes like. Whereas Cherry Coke tastes like Cherry Coke.
Yeah.
And Pepsi Max Cherry is like the perfect cherry flavour, but it's also like a diet drink. And it doesn't have any sugar in it. but it's got maximum flavour. Hence the name. I thought I'd be the one learning today.
Honestly.
But so
makes my tips about spring onions really irrelevant, to be honest.
Well, we're all learning. But the other thing about like Pepsi Max Cherry, right? It's like whenever I go into my Sainsbury's local, for a start, we ran out of toilet paper and pasta and Pepsi Max Cherry, right?
In lockdown.
Yeah. Like Pepsi Max Cherry was really scarce, and like it wasn't there for weeks. And then they'd get a load in, and then it would disappear within like you'd have to get like people watching out the window to work out when the deliveries were. But the other thing was that the prices on Pepsi Max Cherry during lockdown has been like the footsie. It's like you go in, and it's like £1.90 for 2 litres, and then the next day it's like £2.20 for 2 litres. You're like, well, where's the 30p? Do you know what I mean? And you go in and it changes. £2. It's on offer. It's £2 for a 2 litre bottle. It's £1 a litre. It's £1.80. What? £1.80? Quick, guys! It's £1.80. Then it's like off the shelves again. Like Pepsi Max Cherry has been a large part of my lockdown. So yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah, I could tell. Would you serve anything else? I know, like Pepsi Max Cherry is secretly for you. Would you serve anything else to drink?
I think my favourite white wine would be like a Chenin Blanc.
Yeah.
So if you wanted that, I'm not drinking at the moment. I'm having some time away from alcohol. So Chenin Blanc is I don't like Sauvignon Blanc. I think that is too citric.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of lemon flavoured drinks. I like cherry flavoured drinks.
Yes.
So when it comes to wine,
you struggled.
I struggled. So Chenin Blanc is not like how would you describe Chenin Blanc? Because it's not citric. Really,
it's not. It's like you say. I know exactly what you're saying. Sauvignon Blanc is for those people that like something with real high acidity.
Yeah.
And I would put Chenin Blanc just a lot tamer.
Yeah,
tamer. A lot tamer.
Subtler,
yes.
For a more discerning palate.
Yeah. So like for someone like myself who was a cherry Coke man, but you've just taught me that like if I want to really train my palate, I should go to Pepsi Max Cherry.
Yeah, well, the thing is you can't, as much as you want to, you can't drink 2 litres of cherry Coca-Cola a day. No. But you can with Pepsi Max Cherry. You can drink 6.
Right. Now to the real business end of things. Right. Music.
My favourite album is this album called Jack Rabbit Slim by Steve Forbert. And not loads and loads of people know who Steve Forbert is. But he was sort of like, at the time, in the late 70s, early 80s, he was sort of hailed as the next Bob Dylan. And then he had sort of like a bust-up with his label, and then he went kind of like independent. And so he didn't have this huge career. But at the time, he was kind of doing pretty well. And I think Jack Rabbit Slim was his second album. And I bought it randomly from a vintage shop because the front cover was awful.
Yeah.
I saw this terrible album artwork and I thought, that looks rubbish. So I bought it as a bit of a joke in 2005. Didn't listen to it for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then eventually I listened to it. And it was like, it blew my mind. It's one of the best albums. It's my favourite complete album from beginning to end. And you sit down and you listen to it. And then the single off it was Romeo's Tune.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely song. And if you want to get into Steve Forbert, I guess you start with Romeo's Tune and work backwards. But that album, every song on that album is great. And you can't eat an entire course in 3.5 minutes. Well, you could.
Yeah.
Terrible party. but I would put that album on, and that would be kind of the accompanying soundtrack of that course.
I'm going to come back to that track because there's your music choice is certainly on your main course one, which we'll come to. But I know exactly what you mean. I'd never heard that track until you had introduced me to it, and and I'm going to sort of bring that back when we talk about your main course track.
Because you hated it?
No, because I loved it.
Oh,
but I'm going to pay you a compliment in a bit as we move forward. So now we're going to move to the main course. Right. I love your dishes for your main course. But yeah, tell us your main course choices for your guests.
So whenever I would have like a party, I would do like banquet food.
Yeah,
like you say.
Feasting food.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I love that. I think that's how you show people that you care about them, that you love them. Is that
absolutely.
You feed them and you cook them food. And so I like making paella. You get like a big paella dish and then you cook it and then you put it out on the table for everyone to sort of like get a bit. And then I always serve it with chicken. So like depending on how many people there, you get a couple of chickens and you roast them and then you like cut them up and shred them or whatever, and then you put them near the paella and say that's a complete dish there. Mm-hmm. And then there'd be salads and stuff, and I'd do like corn, and there'd be kind of, because I have like anxiety and I am not the best organised person, I would invite a lot of people over. You know, the time that they were meant to be arriving, that's when I'd go to the supermarket and I would throw money at a problem. And I would just like overspend, and I would buy hundreds of pounds worth of food that I was giving away that I wouldn't eat, we've established, because I wasn't hungry and my hands were filthy. And I would just like make all this food for people. I always wash my hands. And so I'd end up like huge banquet food. There'd be like several different salads and stuff like that. But the nuts and bolts of it would be, there'd be paella and there'd be beer roasted chicken, but I would put on loads of kind of like paprika and cayenne and stuff.
Yeah, lovely.
And the beer that I would roast it with would be Foster's.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Which is kind of like a cooking lager.
Yes.
But it's my favourite. I mean, I could drink Foster's all day long.
Well, that there is the key point, right? So in cooking, we have a rule, like, or if you really care about cooking, there isn't such a thing as cooking wine, really. You should always cook with what you'd be willing to drink. Right, and the fact that you are willing to drink Foster's, good man. At least you're not looking at it just purely as cooking lager. No, which I've never said that sentence before in my life. Cooking lager.
No, but like if you want a real treat, then you cook with Foster's and you drink Desperados. Which is shandy in a bottle, isn't it? It's lovely.
Yeah.
So I'm not really into sort of like IPAs and craft beer and stuff like that. It all tastes like earwax to me.
Yeah.
So I just think Foster's is great. They never gave me a Foster's award in Edinburgh, but I'm paying the compliment by calling them cooking lager. But I love it. It's great. Yeah, it's great. Oh.
Yes, we've got paella.
Yeah.
Foster's roast chicken.
Yeah, but you roast it till the Foster's is gone.
Yes.
Or you put so much butter and paprika and cayenne with it all that basically you just get this really like thick gravy at the end of it that when you chop up all the chicken and you kind of like leave it all within the gravy, then it stays moist.
Yeah. I would definitely put some really nice big fat red prawns in your paella, because I know that you absolutely adore prawns.
I do like prawns.
Yeah, I know you love peeling them like in any guise.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got to have some real nice. You had like the nice big red cabanero prawns,
right? Yeah,
like that. Definitely got to have those in your paella.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing about paella is that it's a sharing thing.
Yeah.
But they look beautiful when you like put the lemon segments on and then the parsley on the top and the prawns and chicken. You can make it look beautiful before, like a cake. Do you know what I mean? Before people like start getting in, it's great. I think
it's a great meal. I would love that. That is good choice. And salad, it's just nice. Salad kind of keeps everything nice and fresh with all that richness.
And I think like anything with kind of pomegranate seeds as well. So I like making kind of like, you can do kind of like curried cauliflower with pomegranate seeds and parsley. That's sort of like a salad that you could do.
What are we drinking, Nick?
Pepsi Max Cherry.
Yeah, so Pepsi Max Cherry is like basically to you like still and sparkling, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's fizzy or flat.
Yeah.
I can leave the lid off. I've left the lid off one of them overnight. Yeah. That's still.
There's no hydration at your party. It's just like, So we've got Pepsi Max Cherry and.
On ice.
Yeah, on ice. Nice.
You know, what was the wine? Jammy Red Roux is the wine that I got. I think I like red wine. I haven't drank red wine in such a long time though. I can't really remember what my favourite red wine was. Maybe it was like a Malbec. Jammy Red Roux from Yellowtail. But you know it's a good wine because they use glitter on the bottle. Yeah,
you know it's good. Oh yeah, well that's you're in for something special.
You know you're in Flavortown. It's got glitter on the bottle. Jammy Red Roux is so drinkable. Have you ever had it?
No.
I mean, come on, mate.
I googled it.
What are you doing?
And it blew my mind.
Jammy Red Roux. So it's Yellowtail. They do lots of other ones. I can't remember what the actual yellow bottle. The yellow Shiraz, I think, is the yellow bottle of that. So that's what I would drink, probably a Shiraz, in the days before I found Jammy Red Roux.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I'm a convert.
Yeah.
You can drink 8 bottles of that a night and not even feel it the next week. Jammy Red Roux is like basically alcoholic Ribena.
Yeah.
To the point that you probably should dilute it because it's so sweet. It's like concentrated Ribena, but it's also delicious.
Yeah, and then with Pepsi Max flat or fizzy there as a
yeah, everyone's getting diabetes tonight.
Yeah, you know, because Foster's doesn't contain much sugar as well. So, like, yeah, you're right. We're all right. Yeah. Now, this next track I do know.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you picked?
Up Around the Bend.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's sort of like, I really love Creedence Clearwater. They're just a really cool band, and you can pick like any of their tracks, but Up Around the Bend is kind of like an upbeat, sort of fun song. If you were to literally put it on loop, and it'd be on in just the one song on loop in the background for the whole main course, and it's this, it might get on your nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe pick an album.
Yeah.
Was it Cosmo's Factory? That it might have come off that one. Yeah, Creedence Clearwater, just a really good band. Like, again, it's not my favourite band, but you're thinking about it's the sort of song that you can have on in the background and you're sort of like subconsciously listening to it and enjoying it, but it's not getting in the way of, talking to Jason Statham about diving techniques. You know? It's not breaking your concentration and you're there.
Now, I that track I do know, and I love that track. And, you know, I said earlier I was going to pay you a compliment.
Sure, yeah.
So I watched you on telly, like when you were live at the Apollo.
Oh, yeah.
And you got that poor sod out the audience called Will. And you sang to him. Now, I was expecting you to be like comedy singing and stuff like that, but like, mate, you've got a really good voice. In my opinion.
Thank you.
And you wrote like the track you chose for your starter, Steve Forbert, I hadn't heard of, but I really liked it when I was listening to it, and I really like that Creedence Clearwater track. And I grew up, my mum and dad listened to all sorts, like from Glenn Campbell, Tina Turner, like Rod Stewart, all of that, but they used to listen to a group called Smokey.
Right.
Do you know Smokey?
I don't know Smokey.
Oh, you'd really like them.
Right.
And you sound like them.
Oh, really?
And that's why I was like, you've got a really good voice.
Oh, that's nice. Interesting story.
That was nice of that.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
Really
you could just be, you know.
I've got several albums, and I thought the compliment was going to be, I think it's really good that you didn't pick any of your own music. It's very, very level-headed of you, Nick. So when I did Live at the Apollo, it was a really difficult gig, and a lot of the audience hated me, right?
Including Will. He was so uncomfortable.
I remember it was such a difficult gig, right? And it's a hard gig anyway. But I was on very last, and people wanted their trains. It's like a 7-hour record. They did 2 episodes in one night, so you have 6 comedians. They're all doing like 20 minutes to half an hour each. It's like a really long night. I was on very last, and people were just like, oh, it's not for us, so let's go, right? and you're like watching people leave along with your dreams out the door. And I remember when I was singing the song, I was going, well, it's a tough gig, but this is the best I've ever sung. And I was like thinking, wow, through the tears, I was thinking, wow, my voice is on form tonight. It's the best I ever sung it on that. And I was thinking, and I'm really.
So the fact that I thought that watching it, and you're now telling me that you feel that's the best you've ever sung, that, I mean, I was onto something, wasn't I?
It was. I mean, I'd like to think that I was professional when I did that, and I didn't let like what was happening outside of me get in the way of, providing the people that were paying me to do some good telly. Right? Yeah. So I was like, it doesn't matter, it'll come out all right in the wash.
Dessert time. You like desserts, don't you?
I like the idea of a dessert, but I would rather have a cheese course.
Yeah.
If you've got to pick one or the other, I'd have a dessert and a cheese course.
Yeah.
But if you've got to pick one or another. Although I have recently got into sort of like Pavlovas and stuff.
Yeah, which is what you've picked.
They're so easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a Pavlova and an eaten mess?
An eaten mess, right. So a Pavlova is basically, it's an Italian meringue, set in like a round circle and then basically slow baked, and the idea is you want like a nice crispy shell with a marshmallow middle, and then classically lots of whipped cream on top and strawberries. Eaten mess is kind of the same, but it's essentially the mess, and apparently invented at Eton. So you would have whipped cream, broken up meringue, strawberries is very classic, or any kind of soft fruit really, and that's it. So essentially they are kind of the same, but one served like a gatto and one served in like a sundae glass.
So it's like you've dropped a Pavlova.
Exactly.
And then you're making the best out of a bad situation.
Which is probably what happened.
You're styling it out.
Yeah, you're styling it out. Yeah. A load of rah-rahs dropped a Pavlova.
Yeah.
And then came up with eaten mess.
I'm going to continue pronouncing it Pavlova.
Yes.
Good. All right. Okay.
Now... And also as well, you love salted caramel, so we could make you
else.
A salted caramel Pavlova.
So I think, right, when it comes to what my skills are in terms of cooking, I prefer starters anyway, because you can just do that's where you can be really kind of like inventive. When it comes to like a main course, you kind of want to give people a little bit of what they know.
Yeah.
And you can do like a variant on that, but it's kind of, I think it's less fun in a way. Starters, you can kind of like really experiment with stuff, and then I'm not interested in cooking dessert at all.
No.
And with the cheese course, you can put together different cheeses and stuff, but like I'm not really, by that point in the meal, it's just like if you don't love what I've done already, this shit cake ain't gonna fix things. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really care about dessert. But so to ask you if I really love salt caramel, what's the best sort of salt caramel dessert?
Probably my favourite way of having salted caramel is with chocolate, and I would throw like nuts into the mix because anything dessert. So basically, my favourite kind of thing is like anything based on a Snickers. I love praline, I love like roasted pecan nuts, hazelnuts, those sorts of things.
We should open up an off licence.
Yes.
Never mind what restaurant, it should be Pepsi Max and Snickers.
Yeah.
That's it.
I just think we're keeping it real, Nick. We're keeping it real. So I think when you come to Number City, we do it's basically a homage to my dad. So my dad was from Blackpool originally,
right,
and moved down to Southampton when he was 16, which is where I was born.
Right.
But I grew up eating like if we had dessert, like a lump of cheese, like just a cheddar with say Eccles cakes,
right,
or which down south not heard of, but up north completely normal.
But Eccles cakes is quite sweet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So you know those flaky.
Like a digestive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know, like those, they're flaky pastry and then full of like that kind of mincemeat, as in the like currants and raisins, sultanas. But we do a dessert which is like an apple tartatan. So basically, again, another kind of thing that happened by accident, an apple pie that fell upside down in France.
Right.
And then we serve that with a beautiful kind of cheese. It's similar to the Cambozola, but is just like probably got a little bit more acidity, like Roquefort. And I think because it's got that kind of salty caramel kind of vibe going on, I think it would just be your absolute match made in heaven. What are we drinking, Nick?
Pepsi Max Cherry.
Yeah. Of course we are.
I really like Di Serono. It's different from Amaretto.
Yeah.
Amaretto comes across as quite almondy, which is what it's made from, but it tastes a little bit like it's natural. It's come from the earth.
Yeah.
Whereas Di Serono tastes like syrup. And I just as long as there's no natural ingredients in it, I'm great, you know. Di Serono is sort of, what is it? It's not an Amaretto if it's not made in a region, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So Di Serono is kind of like inspired by...
Yeah.
Which
I feel is a bit like the kind of the cherry in the Cherry Coke and the Pepsi Max. Well, in your mind, is there real cherries in Pepsi Max?
Do you know what? I've not really thought about this. But I used to work in a pub, and on a Friday night, I used to drink in another pub.
Yeah.
But the other pub that I drank in used to close half an hour before the pub that I worked in. So what I would do is at the end of the night, me and my mate on the way home would just stop off in my pub that I worked in, and we would order like 2 pints each of Amaretto and Coke. The sweetest drink in the world. And they would be like, you've only got 10 minutes. And you'd be like, it's fine. Destroy it. And this is why I've taken a break from alcohol, I think. I guess it tastes like Pepsi Max Cherry.
Yeah, definitely. I was umming and ahhing about telling you a story. I feel you, because I feel you and this man need to meet, right? So when I first opened Number 6,
right,
our sous chef, who's no longer with us now, he now works in the south of France on a really, really posh boat for a very, very, very wealthy man.
Yeah.
And he's been on that boat now for about 10 years. So when he comes and visits us, he has the most amazing stories. And there's the best friend of the billionaire that owns the boat comes on the boat every summer. And this particular summer he came on and he had just arrived. It was the first day of the summer holidays and he was drinking Diet Coke. And he summoned over one of the people who were working on the boat and said, this is the best Diet Coke I've ever drank. What vintage is it? Right. So then they were like, is he taking the piss? Is he joking? So he was like, no, he's been deadly serious. So they brought over the pack, got all the cans, found the batch number. Everything was shipped out from the UK and flew over a private jet to pick up all of that batch of Diet Coke for the summer. So it just sounds like you and this guy need to meet, because I think you incredible. you look at fizzy drinks in the same way as a sommelier looks at wine.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
I knew you'd love that story.
You know, that's the best part of going to somewhere like Five Guys, where you can just do, or you go to Nando's and you do like, well, that's 90% Diet Coke with a splash of Fanta in the top of it. Because, you know, you're at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory there. You can just do what you like. Yeah, that's great. But is it like that at Diet Coke? There's a guy or girl with a list of ingredients and they're just doing it? Yeah. Like, we've ran out, we better make some more. Is that how they do it? They actually put together ingredients themselves?
I've no idea. The only thing I would say that I find on a personal level is that there is no taste like it when it's out of that ice cold glass bottle. But then I don't know if that's just memories. If you know, like I just think of growing up as a child, that it was every day of the 6 weeks holiday was hot. Was it? I don't know. But it always felt like it was.
Yeah. Rose tinted glasses.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know that from working in a pub, what you could do is that if you press the button on the
the soda siphon.
Yeah. If you did it lightly, then the syrup
would
just
post
trickle
mix
out. So the post mix would just trickle out. So you could give yourself twice as much Diet Coke syrup, for yourself when you're behind the bar. And so that's what I would do. I would sort of like give myself it's like a double espresso. You know, you're giving yourself a double shot of post mix. filling up the rest. It's absolutely delicious. And to this day, I prefer post-mix to cans.
Do you?
But
Okay.
I prefer glass bottles to post-mix.
To post-mix, yeah.
And then, a 2-litre bottle. Take the lid off, whack in a straw. Happy days. For now. Until you have to have something amputated.
Happy days for now. Oh, and what are you going to play for everyone while they're having dessert?
Cigarettes and Coffee by Otis Redding, which is
Brilliant
such a lovely song. But again, it's kind of like you just put on any Otis Redding at a dinner party and everyone's happy, really.
And my last question for you, and again, I think you chose brilliantly, but by the sounds of things was probably quite hard. If you had to give a Michelin star to an artist, who would you choose?
It would be Dolly Parton.
Brilliant.
Who's the best? Like,
Can I just, before you explain what we also have 1 Michelin star, 2 Michelin star, 3 Michelin stars. That Dolly Parton for me would be 3 Michelin stars.
Yes.
And what 3 Michelin stars is just, you can't go any higher. It's the ultimate accolade.
Yeah. Yeah, she gets all of the stars.
Yeah.
She's great. I saw Dolly Parton in 2011, where I got tickets because someone had seen me do stand-up, and they said it was Live Nation, and they were talking about representing me, taking me on tour. And I happened to say, I'd really like to see Dolly Parton. They gave me and my girlfriend tickets. And you get to the O2 Arena and you picked up the tickets and we looked at the numbers and they kind of don't really make sense. And then get to an usher and they say, oh, you just keep walking that way. And we kept walking. And then get to another usher and they go, just keep walking that way. And we kept walking. And then we got to another usher and they're going, yeah, you're just over there. And we kept walking. Got to another usher. And we'd like been walking for fucking 25 minutes. And we're sat fucking front row centre, right? Like she's got her monitors either side of the stage, of the mic stand. There's a mic stand. I like Dolly Parton. I don't know the words to any of her fucking songs, right? Like, I turn around to my girlfriend and I go, don't you dare go for a piss. Right? She's definitely going to notice that we're not there. She's like singing lyrics to 9 to 5 at us, right? We're like, what the fuck? And there's like people that have sold their Winnebagos to be there. And we're like, we just, and she does like 2 hours and it's almost like a comedy routine. Like every time she goes off stage, she's wearing something different and got another instrument. Like now she's got a mandolin, now she's got a fucking tuba. You know what I mean? And she's like keeps coming on wearing different things and carrying different shaped things. And you're like going, this is fucking, she says, she's 2 hours. And you go, oh, wow, that's incredible. And she goes, okay, we're just going to have a little break now and then we're going to do another half. And she did like 4 hours. And by the end of it, in a good way, I was just absolutely just bawling my eyes out. Just like, this was like, it was the best thing I've ever seen.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. She's just absolutely incredible. She funded like a vaccination for coronavirus. It just came out that, she wrote I Will Always Love You, which was obviously a huge hit for Whitney Houston. She got $10 million worth of royalties that she has put into a black neighbourhood in Nashville. She's very open about the fact that what she does on stage, she's an entertainer, and her private life is really private, but she spends her private time kind of like putting money into books for disadvantaged people that can't afford books and like educating children, and she's kind of like doing fame the best that anyone's ever done it.
Nick, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I'm a big fan of you. I think you're so funny. I love Eat Your Heart Out, and yeah, it's just been such a pleasure talking to you. And I love your menu. I absolutely love your menu. Drinks, I could take or leave, but artists love them.
Yeah, well, good. Leave the drinks, because if you're not having them, I'll have them. I'll mind sweep at the end of the night, but everything else that you said was lovely. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks, mate.